Welcome to the Landmark Baseball Podcast. My name is Josh, and over there in California is Neil. We got some big news today. We had JT Realmuto get signed, Marcus Semien got signed, and no players are inducted to the Hall of Fame. But first off, Neil, how you doing?
I'm doing great, got some great stuff to talk about.
Big stuff, real big
Yes.
stuff. That's why it's an impromptu episode. All right, so first off, this was the first piece of news for the evening. Realmuto resigns with Philadelphia, 5 years, $115 million. It's a pretty crazy AAV for this offseason. But Real Muto's been like the best catcher in baseball for probably 3 years now, and he deserves this kind of money. It's just the Phillies desperately needed this to stay competitive in the NL East. They probably aren't competitive still, but this is a start.
Yeah, I like how you put it. They definitely needed it's not like the Yankees and DJ LeMahieu. They definitely needed this player to come back and not really just to take a step forward, but just to at least maintain where they are. But Phillies are in obviously a different situation. Their division is a lot tougher. I mean, you got the Mets, you got the Braves, you got the who else? I mean, not Nats.
Nationals,
Yeah,
who knows what they're gonna do this year?
Nats might win it all, or not win it all, but win the division. And yeah, like Phillies though, you kind of, I felt like I kind of saw this coming just because the way you were updating me with the contracts. They're like, okay, now they're 5 years, 100 million. Okay, now they're at 110. So yeah, would you say they settled at 115 for 5 years?
They know that they needed this really
Right.
badly.
Yeah. So they were just kind of going up and up slowly, and I mean, hey, they got it done. Yeah, like you said, best catcher in the game, and yeah, huge part of their offense. And I mean, their offense is still pretty scary. And I know Bryce Harper always raves about JT Realmuto, and
He
yeah,
was
good for
begging
him.
for him to resign him.
Yeah, he's like, please, like Reese Austin's is overrated, like Andrew McCutchen's old, like please. And you know what? They got it done though. So I mean, they have over 400 million tied up in two players, but I mean, a bunch of teams have that. We could list off
A
five other
couple
teams:
teams.
Padres, Yankees, Dodgers. Yeah, I don't know
Padres
who else.
honestly aren't even there yet because Machado is getting paid a lot, but like that's really it. Myers and Hosmer kind of have
Hosmer's.
non-favorable contracts, but
I guess
Hosmer comes off
over.
the
You're
book.
right. Hosmer doesn't. Yeah, you're right. Um, but yeah. So I mean, overall, great move for the Phillies, though. I mean, yeah, like we both said, like they had to get it done. I mean, you just can't lose a player like that. And who knows, he might have gone to the Mets or something. Who at the start of this, before if you if he wasn't willing to resign with them. But yeah, so their lineup now looking really scary. And yeah, like you said though, still probably not going to win the division. I'd have to agree with you on that. I mean,
I don't think so. So the lineup currently reads McCutchen, Alec Boehm, who had a really good rookie season, but only a few games. He'll probably do pretty good though. Harper, Real Muto, Hoskins, Segura, Roman Quinn, and Scott Kingery. And like the first half of that lineup gives you confidence, but after Hoskins, I mean, some teams have pretty good 7 through 9s now, and or six through
right.
nines, and
Segura
not here.
Segura used to be a solid average guy, but probably not going to give you great defense at shortstop.
He's just
Scott
the average player,
Kingery.
is how I
Yeah,
describe him.
Scott Kingery, another average player. Like, yeah, he can play a lot of positions. Roman Quinn, I don't even know who that is.
Speedy center fielder,
Yeah, he's their
not really
center
much
fielder.
else.
He's a switch hitter. So on
I
paper,
mean, the
you
bottom
see,
two guys in their lineup, they have batting like 225 with like a 290 on base percentage. That's just not,
yeah,
you're giving
no.
away 2 outs every time you go through the lineup.
Well, yeah, and then they're pitching too. I mean, you got Aaron Nola, who's, I mean, he was pretty good, I'd say a year or two ago. I mean,
He's still pretty
Wheeler,
good.
yeah, yeah, Nola's still pretty good. Don't get me wrong. Wheeler, who's, overpaid, but, solid. Ideally a 3 or 4 pitcher though, for being honest. And then
On any elite team, yeah.
Zach Eflin, Vince Velasquez, Spencer Howard, like no. Like
They expect better from Spencer Howard. He should be like projected like a 2 or 3 starter at his peak, maybe even better if they're lucky. But I mean, you expect him to improve. Vince Velasquez did not look good this year. Zach Eflin looked pretty good. Wheeler looked really good. Nola kind of needs to bounce back a little, but the pieces are there for the rotation. But I don't think they're enough for a playoff run, let alone how bad the bullpen is.
Right. I mean, and there's not really too many good relievers on the market anymore. Had Brad Hand signed with the Nats, Yates, Blue Jays, and
I mean,
Liam
who's even
Hendricks,
left?
White Sox. Yeah, the top three guys. I mean, I think Trevor Rosenthal, he might
He's what the Yankees really want right now. That's like what Yankees Twitter's like clamoring for is a Trevor Rosenthal signing.
which they might do now that they freed up some space by trading Adam Ottavino. But yeah, that's I
They're
mean
gonna get Brett Gardner and Trevor Rosenthal, and they're gonna be done.
I mean, hey, I guess that would be yeah. We'll talk about that later if we got
I want to
some.
talk about the Yankees. We've talked about the Yankees
Yeah,
enough in recent episodes, but where do you think
yeah,
what do you think this does for the Phillies right now? Like, does this mean anything? I mean, their backup catcher would have been Andrew Knapp if they didn't
right.
re-sign Realmuto. So I mean, they're moving in the right direction. There's a long way to go, and honestly, I don't know why they would do something like this. Maybe to keep Harper happy if they can't trade Harper. I don't know. I just think this is a lost
Yeah,
cause at
I
this
don't think
point.
they could trade Harper at this point. Yeah, I feel like their owner, he's just way too committed and he
Until
has
Harper
to,
requests a trade, they can't trade him.
right. I mean, I think they're just too tied up. They spend, money. You could say like, I mean, just look at the Padres. They spent money in this scenario, recently at the right time because they had, Tatis coming up. They had I could name all their other prospects too. Patino, Gore, who, I mean, Patino now they traded, but they spent money at the right time. I mean, Phillies, they just never had those guys coming up. I mean, even Padres now, they still have guys coming up and still
Well,
guys they're
Phillies
excited about.
overcommitted. They overcommitted to Harper. They overcommitted to McCutcheon. They were somehow able to get Real Muto. So we got all these big offensive moves, but we don't have anything on the pitching side. They signed Zach Wheeler. Big whoop,
Right.
I guess. I mean, it's not going to change your rotation.
But I mean, still though, you could say, Padres at their point, they did, something similar. Hosmer, Myers, they paid them a lot, for two
But
guys
like you
probably didn't
said, though, they
deserve that
had guys
much.
coming up. Like Lucchesi was
Exactly though.
projected, and
Yeah, Eric
Lamette and
Lauer,
Paddock,
yeah.
and
They had a lot of guys coming up too. Yeah, so the Phillies, they were just they just like I don't know, they just tried to jump in too deep, I guess. Like they
then they
thought they
traded
had
away
something.
Sixto Sanchez for Real Muto, and he's looking like a
Oh
stud
yeah,
on the
he's really good.
Marlins.
Yeah, Marlins, yeah, definitely got a steal at that. And yeah, I mean, I just they were too stubborn to realize, what they were doing. But I mean not what they were doing, but like how
Tunnel vision.
yeah, tunnel vision, and they just lost sight of the bigger picture, which is like, no, you need like every position good, like three, four really good pitchers. Yeah, our bullpen could be a little bit shaky, but we'll work on that. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I don't see them. I see this as a wild card team at best. They're
That's with
this.
expanded playoffs, I
That's
think.
yeah, with expanded play, which is not likely to happen.
We have no
Um,
idea. They're trying to use it as a bargaining chip. I don't even want to talk about labor pod stuff, so we can maybe do that on the weekend.
right, but yeah, this is a wild card team at best. I mean, no way they're if the Braves, Nats, Mets, one of them, there's one of those teams is definitely winning the division, and the other two are prime wild card contenders also. So
I have this as best case scenario. They beat the Marlins. They prove that the 2020 Marlins were just a fluke. And they beat the Nationals if the Nationals absolutely flop, like Soto gets hurt and Strasburg's out again, and Bell and Schwarber don't work out. That's the only situation. I think the Phillies are better than the Nats, and I really don't see that happening. So I'm just gonna say fourth place team at best.
I would say, I would say third. I don't know, maybe one of those
I mean,
teams.
absolute best case scenario, third place, but I don't really see
Yeah,
a world where they get into the playoffs.
yeah, that's true. So still a fun team to watch, I guess, not that
Oh yeah, for
offense is
sure.
gonna be still pretty nice with Harper and Real Muto. I mean, Real Muto does have some injury questions, but yeah, it is what it
Watching
is.
Alec Boehm, I mean, tune into a Phillies game just to see Boehm and Harper. That's
Yeah,
a great duo right there.
solid young core. Or not
Boehm's only 24.
Bohm. Yeah, Bohm is young, obviously. Yeah, not Harper, but
Yeah, so it's a Do you have a calculator on you? 5 years, $115 million. What is that per year? I didn't actually
Uh,
look this one up. We've been
I
doing a
don't.
lot of 1 year deals. Haven't had to do math. Not a math
Yeah.
pod.
The 115 divided by 5, 23.
23 million a year. That's a little less than what Springer got, and a lot more than what LeMahieu got. So I mean, that probably falls about right. Teams value catchers a lot less these days. But
You
he is the best
really,
catcher in baseball.
yeah, and you really like, Joe Mauer obviously got a lot of money, and but other than that, you really don't see catchers getting this kind of money just because, yeah, I guess when their time comes, when they finally are done with their arbitration and their, time comes, they're too old or yeah,
They're
too high
worn
risk.
down. Look at what happened
Yeah,
to Posey, Buster Posey.
right. And I mean, I'm just like there's a lot of teams they just cycle catchers. Who knows what the Dodgers are gonna do with Will Smith if they extend him. I mean, obviously he's really good, but yeah, I mean, yeah, and Real Muto, he's what, 29, I think at this moment.
This will be his age 30 season.
Yeah, so 30. I mean, 35 for a catcher. Worst case, you could DH or move him to first base or something.
I
So
think they should do that half the time anyway, just to save him a little bit. Because I mean, the last 3 seasons he's had an OPS over 800. Anything you can do to keep him feeling fresh and able to produce on offense, they need to do it.
that's
He's
true.
been an
Yeah.
he's been a serviceable defender over the last few years, but he's getting paid because of his bat. I mean, that's
No, he's a really good defender too, though. Like, don't just wrong. Yeah, he's also excellent base runner. But yeah, super strong throwing arm. But yeah, definitely. You definitely like. I see what you're saying about preserving the player. You get way more out of him long term. The less he gets beat up behind the plate. Which yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
and maybe
But
you're starting games with Real Muto catching, or I don't really know how the. It depends on the DH rule. It really does, whether they can move him around or what. Maybe they move Hoskins or they move Real Muto to first at like the middle of the games and throw Knapp in behind the plate just to maybe if they're winning they can do something like that.
mhm.
But it'll be interesting to see how the Phillies do this year. I'm not going to pay too much attention to them. Maybe if they do some more things, we'll see. But we can move on to Marcus Semien. 1 year deal, $18 million. He'll fill in. I think they already said it at second base. They didn't really have anyone there. So we got Bichette at short. They're going to try to keep Guerrero at third. Rowdy Tellez should be the starting first baseman. That actually might be wrong.
I think he's gonna
Yeah,
be
it is wrong.
DH.
Yeah, they want Vladdy at first, Kevin Biggio at third. He's kind of an outfielder, and Kevin Biggio is a utility man. Love
Yeah,
him.
he played a lot of second too. I
He
actually
played
kind of
at
like
left field
that.
too a little bit. Yeah.
I think I kind of like that in terms of moving Guerrero to first because I didn't really see him being a every day. I
I
mean, well,
think since he lost the weight, he
wait,
might be
yeah,
able
that's
to do it.
true.
Yeah.
That's true. We did see that highlight of him, falling over, trying to get a soybean bunt or whatever, or like a softly hit ball into the infield. But yeah, first base, he just feels like a first baseman. I mean, if that helps his offense a lot, it totally might. Just not having to play such a playing in the hot corner every night, such a demanding position. I mean. And yeah, Simeon, great defender at second, and Biggio, I definitely think he can play third. He played a lot of second. He played everywhere.
I'm
I,
curious to see how the arm translates to third. I don't know how much third he's played in his career, but the arm is usually the biggest question mark. And I don't know if Biggio's a real skinny guy, so I don't know if what kind of power he has on that arm, but we'll see.
yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting because I know Bichette has a pretty good arm and he's accurate, but I
Bichette's a
mean,
great shortstop. He should stick there pretty easily.
yeah, but if yeah, I mean, who knows though? But yeah, that lineup, yeah, really scary with Springer, Simeon, Bichette. Yeah,
So
all
the
scary.
projected lineup right now, they're going to keep Springer at leadoff, Simeon second, Bichette, Hernandez, Teoscar, Guerrero, Biggio, Gurriel, Telez, and Jansen. And Jansen's a pretty above average hitting catcher in terms of the way catchers hit these days. And he's in your 9 hole. This is a pretty good lineup. Rowdy Tellez is super underrated. I think he can be a good trade piece for them if they want to add a pitcher at the deadline. I tweeted this out, but I think they can get like Matt Boyd for like Rowdy Tellez and Jordan Groshans. He's one of their top prospects. So I mean, they have things to work with here. They don't have to pay. They don't really have to pay more money out if they trade like Grichuk and Tellez, so they can kind of stay at the same place on the payroll, which would be a good idea for them.
Right, and I mean they've a lot of people said they weren't going to spend money, and they especially, they're not even playing in Toronto. They have to play in some like college field in Buffalo or whatever.
Buffalo, it's their AAA field.
Yeah, AAA. So it's not even. They've definitely gotten hit hard. I mean, everyone has, but yeah, they just spent 18 million. Yeah, it is a 1 year deal, but still, that's a lot for one guy, especially Semien. I don't mean, I'm sure he's happy making that much a year, and I mean, yeah, he's gonna do great in that lineup. Whenever you put good players in great lineups, they just get better, and I mean, yeah, you look at his OBP, great. I mean, or yeah, I mean,
His
I just.
OPS has been pretty. He's only had like one good season.
Right, right. That's what I like. It's kind of hard with him, but I feel like I don't know. I just feel like hitting between Springer and Bichette, that's going to be really good for him. And
I mean,
yeah,
he's just a
this
grinder.
lineup is scary.
He started with Chicago, the White Sox, for like 2 seasons, I think, and then he got moved to Oakland, and he's just been getting slightly better every year. And then it kind of culminated in 2019. He got third in the MVP voting. He had a 139 OPS plus. It's like Trout level. So I mean, adds to the offense for sure. Hopefully, he can keep doing it. They could really use it. I think it'd be nice to have that veteran presence that the Blue Jays were kind of lacking to show some of the younger guys things about the league. Probably show him a lot about defense. He's a great defender.
Right. I mean, this might be I don't know who you think. I'm sure some Blue Jays fan will tell you this is the best lineup in the league. I would say no, because
Not in the entire league, maybe in the AL
maybe
if
in
the
the
Yankees aren't
AL,
healthy.
maybe, yeah, maybe with the Yankee, yeah, exactly.
White
This
Sox are a really good lineup. That's who they have to beat. Really, I think this
right.
lineup could be better than the Yankees lineup, though. They have a better mix of. No, they don't. Never mind. I was gonna say lefty bats, but they just have Biggio and Tellez in the starting
Which is
lineup.
still better. The Yankees' best lefty is who like.
Hicks.
Well, he's a switch hitter. Like it's it's like Gardner or like Mike Talkman. It's like nobody's. Well,
Yeah,
like
it's nothing.
Gardner's not a nobody. He's been there a while, but yeah, it's not
He's not like you don't think of his bat really.
right.
It's kind of an
Exactly.
afterthought.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, this lineup though really good, like really good for sure. And I mean, yeah, good for the Jays. Like I said, a lot of people were expecting them to not be crazy, but I mean, they weren't crazy. They got Yates, they got uh, franchise center fielder in George Springer, and then they got Simeon, who's, I mean, normally a shortstop, but he's gonna come in and play second base. So
And the
I mean,
franchise
great.
infielders coming up, Bichette and Guerrero, and it's just a very exciting team. Like if you're not a fan of any team, and or like if you're not a fan of, yeah, I'm gonna say that a fan of any team, and like you see a couple games are on whatever stream, and you just click on the Blue Jays. They're gonna be a fun team to watch.
Definitely. The only thing I would say, and I was even thinking about this when I was saying, this might be the best lineup in the American League, is no one really stands out as that big star. Like all the other teams with insane lineups, like yeah, you could say like yeah, Dodgers, Betts, Bellinger, Padres, Machado, even if you don't want to say, Tatis, Yankees, obviously Aaron Judge, Stanton. I mean, this
Braves,
lineup,
Acuna, Albies, Freeman.
Freeman, yeah, exactly. The like their best player, their best hitter still might be George Springer, who's a really good hitter. Don't get me wrong, but he's not
I
some of
mean,
these
they're
other
just top to
guys. They're
bottom, and
just yeah, exactly. They're super
that's like what the Rays
consistent.
did last year. They didn't have
No,
anybody. They
you're
made it all the way
totally
to the World
right, and
Series.
they beat the Yankees, yeah, and they yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. You don't need all a bunch of stars, but it is nice when you have a bunch of grinders versus a bunch of grinders with like 2 or 3 stars here and there, because it just makes, yeah, it just complements it so much better. So yeah, still really great lineup though, super pesty 1 through 9, but yeah,
It is
definitely
nice during clutch situations to like have that guy up over like one of these coin flip guys like Bichette. I don't know his clutch numbers off the top of
right.
my head, but I'd say he's not proven enough to be like, oh, Bichette's gonna definitely
Right,
come through here.
and he's not ideally. I would say he hits like second or I don't know, not third. I wouldn't like
He's got
have
big power numbers.
no, definitely, but third and fourth for Bichette and Hernandez. That's kind of what I mean. Like other teams are putting some really scary guys like second, third, and fourth. Like that's where, you
I
know,
like it though. Like their whole lineup's made up of
oh,
like what would
definitely.
be good leadoff hitters or like good number five hitters. Like there's no like in between,
Definitely, no,
and
definitely.
I do like that.
I've been acknowledging their lineup's really good. I just felt like I jumped like too far, saying like their lineup was like so good, but like I wanted to take a step back. But yeah, they're definitely scary. Definitely like, and which is good though, because I mean, in the AL West, you have to beat up on the bad teams. Like it's almost like a part of like if you're gonna win the division or not. Because I remember, with with the Yankees last year, I mean, it was only 60 games, and they were having some really bad streaks against
Oh, you mean the East?
yeah, the AL East. Yeah, you gotta beat the Orioles and the Red Sox and the Rays when they're not sending out Glasnow. Yeah, and this offense that'll do that, and that's the difference between making the playoffs and not. So I think, I mean, yeah, and especially like with their pitching, you could say they could have addressed that instead, but I think making the lineup just so scary that just helps them out a lot. Like.
And the Jays also signed Tyler Chatwood, who's going to fill in the bullpen. I mean, not not a flashy signing by any means, but definitely adds to the depth that they need in that bullpen really desperately. I think it's going to be all trade deadline moves from here out. In terms of major moves, they're just going to make sure they can get to the playoffs by the deadline, which is what they've done by getting Semien and Springer. And then they're going to see how guys are playing during the season, which I think is smart. Maybe sign Paxton at this point, but I'm really big on them signing Paxton. But at this point, they might as well just wait to see how people are performing and
Is there, yeah,
making
do we know
trades accordingly.
how much cap room they have left?
I actually looked at this before the episode. So the Blue Jays are owned by the Rogers Corporation, who owns the
Right.
stadium and everything. So they kind of have unlimited funds for this team. The Blue Jays are only spending like $150 million right now. The luxury tax is at 210 million, so they can really buy anything they want right now.
Wow.
I was really surprised to see it that low, 150 million. That's super low. Yankees are spending 200 million. This team is very competitive with that Yankees team.
Right. I was gonna say, who knows, maybe they signed Tanaka, but as
Tanaka's
we
going back to
know, yeah,
Japan.
Tanaka's going back to Japan, as of this moment at least. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of unfortunate. I was kind of hoping he'd sign with the Mets or something, or the Jays, if
I think it's
not.
Yankees or bust for him.
Which, yeah, I don't know. I don't get that. I guess we'll talk about that this weekend. But yeah, like you were saying, if they have that much to spend, yeah, definitely. I don't know why Paxton is even a question, unless he just wants an absurd amount. But Paxton seems like a 1 year, like
Mm-hmm.
$7 million type of guy at this point. If
He'll
Kluber's
probably
getting
go
one
for
year's 11
15.
million,
I think we've been reading the starting pitcher market wrong since like the beginning because no one expected Kluber to go for 11 million. No one expected Garrett Richards to go for 10 million. So I think a guy like Paxton might demand upwards of 15 mil. And maybe that's just not something they're comfortable doing yet. And that's fine. Like I said, they should probably just see how people are performing at the deadline and trade accordingly.
that's a very good way of putting it. Yeah, like see what you have before you buy all in, because yeah, even at the trade deadline, you still have half the season to work with. So. Yeah, I could definitely see them doing that too, but I think they should still go for one more pitcher if they have, flexibility, which clearly they do. Like, there's a lot of guys you could get for a 1 year deal. I mean, if you even before the Semien deal, if you gave me, two buttons as the Blue Jays, oh, Marcus Semien, press A for Marcus Semien, 1 year, 18 million, or press Paxton, 1 year, 18 million. I would probably press the Paxton button, honestly, just because their lineup, like they're just so much better. I mean, already. Well, I'm not saying without Semien, but they're just so great already, and I
I
don't see
think he
why
is a
not.
necessary piece though because their bench right now is catcher Reese McGuire, infielder Santiago Espinal. I don't even know who that is.
Hmm.
Derek Fisher and Randall Grichuk. Grichuk's the only like reliable bench
Right,
piece there. So maybe adding Simeon gives them that more infield depth that they were looking for. So I mean,
right,
I think now this lineup is set though. They're not going to get any more position players of impact for the next year.
right. And they could lose, one of these guys to injuries or Who
Hmm.
knows what happens? And yeah, then Grichuk slides back in, and this lineup is super versatile. I mean, Gurriel, he can play a bunch of positions.
Anywhere.
I'm pretty sure he's played shortstop before.
Yeah, he
So
started as a shortstop.
yeah, so he could move back into the infield, and you can slide Grichuk in. There's a lot of different options with this lineup.
Guerrero can go to third. Biggio can go to the outfield. He can go to second. Gurriel infield, outfield. I mean, they're
Right.
pretty set. Simeon can go second
They
or
have the
third.
DH option, so that'll help too. I mean, there's a lot of, different ways. So yeah, definitely a solid move, but um they need I think get one more pitcher because I mean, right now, yeah, Ryu and then Stripling, I saw a little bit
Bobby
of Stripling
Ray.
with the Dodgers, he was pretty solid, but not, ideally he's like a 4 or 5 on most teams. Which is what he is for them. But yeah, and then yeah, Nate Pearson we talked about a little bit previously. A lot of upside. Yeah,
I'm
I don't
giving
know.
Pearson the benefit of the doubt. I think that one extra year for him, he recovered from injury a little bit. I'm sure he's been working on stuff in the offseason. That extra year of development for him is probably pretty key. I think he'll slide into their number 2 spot over Robbie Ray. I hope he breaks out and is like Ryu, but we can't really rely on that. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he's going to be better than he was when we saw him in 2020.
Yeah, definitely. I think if I had to bet on it, I would say Nate Pearson definitely, does meets his expectations based off what we've seen. And yeah, just
Robbie
his
Ray's had
his
like
stuff is
one good
insane.
season.
Yeah, Robbie Ray, I never really thought he was that good. I saw a little bit of him when he was on Arizona and never really bought into Robbie Ray. So I think that's kind of just a hole that they filled. They're like, okay, well, at least this guy's a major
Yeah,
league pitcher versus, going and calling someone up who shouldn't be here. But
yeah, for sure.
and then their bullpen too. Yeah, they still. Who'd you
It's
say like?
serviceable for now, but in the playoffs, they're gonna want an upgrade in a few different
Right, they're
places. Like they
definitely
don't have a
gonna.
reliable setup man. If Dolis is the way he was last year, maybe you
Yeah,
throw Dolis in there. But right now, they don't have a reliable setup man. They don't have like serviceable middle relief guys that we've seen enough of yet. I guess there's some guys that threw good 2020s, but 60 games. So
definitely. I think yeah, starting pitching would be the way to go, and then
they
maybe
need a
one
lefty
more
arm in the bullpen
reliever,
too. Their best lefties
which
are Ryan Barucki and Anthony Kay. Man, none of
not.
those guys really give you
Yeah,
much confidence.
yeah, I'm scared if either of those guys are in the game. But
I mean, you're facing the Dodgers in the World Series. You got the gauntlet of Bellinger, Muncy, and who's the other? Oh, Peterson. If he resigns there, probably not. But you got some big lefties on some big
Peter,
teams,
yeah,
and
they
you're gonna
got
need something to shut that down.
right.
Seager, yeah,
Even I was looking at Mookie Betts' stats. He's actually like not too great with left-handed pitchers, but
yeah. He's a reverse splits guy. That's
but he
very
just
odd.
but his reverse splits, like everyone you said like who has reverse splits is kind of weird, right? Because you don't expect it, but his are
Puig.
extreme. Like he's like destroys right-handed hitters and like, which is not like at any time that's the case. Majority of pitchers are right-handed, so that is a good thing. And ideally, you want a guy like Trout who destroys righties better than lefties, but still destroys lefties too. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting thing about Betts. He's essentially another lefty in that lineup if you think about it. But yeah, you definitely I mean, hey, Yankees, like we said earlier, if that's who they're competing with in the playoffs, though, they're fine. Maybe they're
Yeah,
just
they're
like,
set.
maybe they're just like, okay, you know what, Ryu, like that wasn't the best move, like, but yeah, actually, Yankees,
Even the White Sox are a pretty right-handed
oh
heavy
yeah,
lineup.
definitely, definitely,
Moncada's a switch hitter, and he's like their only real like intimidation from the
right.
left
Eaton's
side.
a solid lefty, but
You're not
even
worried about
the
him going
even the
yard.
a lot of Yankees hitters, if you look at the splits, they're similar. They hit right-handed pitching better than left-handed, but
They
then
have to.
they're just so yeah, because they're just so right-handed dominant. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know if this is still enough though to say that the Jays are the favorites. Like, yeah, you we could have said that before.
They're not
Um,
done. I don't think they're done. Not in, they're done in the off season for big signings, but they're not.
At the
This
same
is
time,
not
though,
the same team that we're going to
Yankees
see in the playoffs next
aren't
year.
done either though. So if we're trying to, think about who gets the
Yankees got
edge,
one mid-tier signing
they
left.
got one
It's going
mid-tier
to go to
side,
the rotation.
which you can't say that the Jays, they might spend, what'd you say, they have like 50 million to spend, but it doesn't feel like that at this
They
point.
have
It
like a
feels like
hundred
it's
million
gonna be.
almost.
Oh, really? I thought you said they had like 150, and then what's the cap, like 210?
They're 150 and the cap's 210, so
So
they
yeah,
have
they have like
60 mil or
60.
whatever.
Yeah, so but it doesn't feel like they're gonna, even come close to that. Just
No, I mean they need a lot of that money to resign or to extend guys like Bichette and Guerrero for the next, hopefully 6 years or something like that after their rookie contracts are up.
right. Yeah, they definitely didn't have to pay some of these dudes, and they have allotted Springer, 25 mil for the next, or I don't even know how much he's making AAV, but
25, yeah.
yeah, okay. So yeah, and then Ryu obviously also. But yeah, I feel definitely makes this division just a little bit, tighter though. Like you got just slightly better. I mean, I don't think Semien is warrant of his own episode or worthy of his
Depends
own
what
of his
Simeon we
episode.
get. We're here for
Right.
Realmuto, but I guess the Blue Jays kind of got their own. They
No,
stole the show.
yeah. No, yeah, too. I mean, but this does like put more pressure on the Yankees though for sure. Just because yeah, this
Yeah,
infield is really good defensively too, which is not something the Yankees could say, I guess. Because yeah, Bichette at short and Semien at second. That's pretty good, I think. And then
that's a fun
even
duo.
even Biggio at third. That's kind of yeah, it's kind of weird. It's not weird, but you don't really know. And then Guerrero at first. I mean, we'll see though. I think the middle infield is really good, and then their outfield is pretty good also. And yeah, I mean, I hope this
I
team
love
makes the
Kevin
playoffs.
Biggio, man. They have him projected to bat 232, but his on base percentage is going to be 348, which is like third highest on the team. And he's only 26 years old, and that's pretty insane. A guy who just can't swing the bat hardly. He'll just take his walk and go to first.
I mean, he's listed at 21 home runs also, so that's kind of
Oh yeah, he's
who's
not
their
really a huge power guy.
who's their best hitter according to Fangraphs. So
It'll
Bo
probably be
Bichette
Springer.
284 with 496 slugging, Springer 272 with 498 slugging. But yeah, Springer's OPS or OBP is better, so he would have the higher OPS. But
Depends what Guerrero looks like. I think it's between Guerrero and Springer for best hitter. Bichette's really good. He's like Tatis level. Like a lot of his hitting numbers are similar to Tatis, but I think Guerrero losing that weight should free him up a lot, and he's going to be something special this year. But Springer's the most proven guy for sure.
at the same time, though, I'm still kind of doubting Guerrero, and just because
We
um
haven't seen it yet.
yeah, we haven't, and I'm kind of like I've just been thinking about, I hear about all these guys like, oh, former top prospect, and they're just not what they should have been, right? And I'm thinking
Profar.
like, if yeah, Profar, like, I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of guys, you can name, but I mean, yeah, just because you're he was the number one prospect. He was actually ranked over Tatis, but at this point, no one would even like argue like Guerrero or Tatis, who's like wowed you more. And I mean, I hope he does turn things around. But yeah, at this point, I mean, yeah, hopefully the weight loss. That's what he needed.
I mean, that
Maybe
was the big question, and here we are. He's lost the weight, so I mean, hopefully he does look like the guy we were expected to see. And I mean, what a combo! What a quad group of people here out of their homegrown guys: Bichette, Guerrero, Biggio, Gurriel.
for
It's
real,
an
yeah.
insane homegrown group.
Right, and they're gonna definitely command a lot of money. Well, at least Bichette is at this point.
Bichette and Guerrero will. Gurriel, they probably will use it as a trade piece. He's already 27. He has high upside though. Still, we just haven't seen the elite talent that they talk about with him. But I mean, yeah, Bichette and Guerrero are going to demand those extensions. Biggio probably won't, but still an effective piece.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that this is the Simeon thing is a 1 year deal. Like I think they're gonna go out and try to get one of these big shortstops next off season. They're gonna be one of the teams talked about. and Bichette can play second. I'm sure he
They
could
signed
play
Baez
third.
to a 1 year deal. I really like Baez in Toronto.
You think Baez is gonna get a 1 year deal though?
I don't know.
I
Like
think
his number,
his
I think he'd
defense
like to bet on
alone,
himself.
just like yeah, you're right, because then that's how you get more money long term, and he seems like the type of dude who would like bet on himself and do really
He's had
good.
a rough couple last season or last rough couple. Holy shit, a rough last couple seasons. But I think he'd take the bet on himself that hey, this is the year I'm gonna go out and look like prime me again.
I think he definitely could get a like more years though, just because his defensive value at shortstop, and then also his offense potential being there. So I think yeah,
Hmm.
Baez will be a really interesting guy. But yeah, there's gonna be a bunch. They could get Story, they could get Correa, they could get. There's a lot of guys that the Blue Jays could get. So who else? Cedar, that would be cool. That would be a really good left-handed bat if they went out and signed Corey
That would be
Cedar.
fun.
But
We can talk about that for a long time.
yeah.
We can go into which shortstop would be the best fit, but we will move on unless you have anything else to add with the Jays.
No, I'd say yeah, it doesn't put them over the Yankees, but they might still edge them out with all the injuries and stuff. But yeah.
And so we have the sad news of the day. Not really sad news. I don't really care about Hall of Fame voting that much. It's a very stupid system, but no one got inducted to the Hall this year. They pushed last year's back to this year because of COVID. So like Jeter and those guys will get inducted, and then these guys would have been on the same stage with them, but no one got inducted. So I mean, is there anyone in here that you think should have got inducted? Depends where you
Um
stand on the steroid thing, but
yeah, I guess. And we could do a whole separate debate about that. But I have to look at the list. I mean, I'm assuming there's Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds.
yep, and they've only got 1 year left on the ballot. So I mean,
Right. So
if they're
I'm
gonna
not
have that
even
change,
that literally comes down to how you feel on the steroid thing, because if you're looking at what they did, it's a
it's
no-brainer, obviously. Yeah,
undeniable.
it's all
Yeah,
yeah, it's like, why are we even having this conversation? So it literally just comes down to how do you feel about steroids? And
Clemens. I
clearly,
was looking at the WAR leaders, the MLB WAR leaders. Bonds is like third. Clemens is like sixth, and as a
oh,
pitcher, that's
Clemens,
insane.
yeah, Clemens, like, yeah, you looked at his stats. Yeah, don't even get me
They're
started.
video
He's
game numbers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, same with Bonds, but
Yeah,
yeah, I'm gonna
but
look
like
at.
Clemens doesn't give you that wow factor that Bonds does, and like the fact Clemens is like in the top 10 best players of all time. That's insane to think about, but it's the reality of that stat.
So did Kurt Schilling?
Kurt Schilling was the closest. He was only 4% away, in like 16 votes away from making it in.
But
He already said he's.
because he's outlandish on social media, they haven't put him in.
That's probably why, and I think that's dumb to base like having players like talk themselves out of being in the Hall of Fame. Like it shouldn't be a political thing. It should be how'd you play on the field? Like how was your integrity during your playing days? Maybe there's some bad stories about Schilling from when he played. I don't really know that much about the guy, but I mean the stats are obviously there. So I hate these feelings that things are like politically motivated in a sports Hall of Fame voting.
Yeah, that is kind of dumb. Especially you get the Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens thing if they are, supposedly being super
That's
strict
literal
about.
on-field integrity. That's
Yeah,
not
that's
anything to
that's
do
that's
with.
different, and that is cheating. So you could say that, like, yeah, it all depends on where you stand on it. But yeah, I mean, nothing. You could, Omar Vizquel. You hear about, yeah, he was like a stud defensively. He won a
There was
bunch of
big
Gold
talk about
Gloves.
Scott Rowland being super underrated when it comes to like some of the advanced stats, and Scott Rowland looked really good after crunching all those numbers, and there was a big push for him. He might make it next year. He saw a big increase in percentage this year, but
Yeah,
for
he
now,
could. I
he's
mean, he
not on.
made. Honestly, for me, it's kind of. I've looked at the Hall of Fame and a bunch of different sports, baseball, basketball, football, and it's kind of more or less the same. You could really look at a guy's. I mean, all sports have all-star games, right? And I think that alone is just a great, indicator and of how many. And I mean, Scott Rowland had what, 7, it looks like. So not to mention what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and also 7 Gold Gloves to go along with that. So it definitely seems like and what was he, a World Series champ also with the Phillies? Yeah.
2006 with the Cardinals.
Oh, with the Cardinals. Okay.
I
So
forgot he had a Cardinals stint, but it's kind of weird. He was a
he
Blue
had
Jay too. 8-time Gold Glove winner though. I don't really buy
or
into
eight.
awards as much for these kind of things, but usually a lot of Hall of Fame voters will look at the counting stats, and like 3,000 hits is like the guarantee to get
Oh
in.
yeah. Well,
500
that's
homers is the
like
guarantee.
yeah,
That's a little old-minded thinking, but Scott Rowland only came in at like 2,100 hits, 315 home runs. So I mean, it is a tough case to make, but there's some numbers that do make a case for him, and maybe we'll see how the writers' thought process changes over the next year. But Hall of Fame voting's dumb, and I think it's just a really stupid process.
right. Yeah, Gary Sheffield. I don't know. Was he accused of juicing it? I
I don't
guess.
know. I I'm not like super educated on steroid era. I just know like the big standouts. Like I know guys like
Sammy
Carlos Delgado
Sosa,
and Sammy
Mark
Sosa.
McGuire,
Ramirez had a
and
positive test.
yeah.
McGuire,
I mean, yeah,
Andrew
because
Jones was another
Gary
one.
Sheffield, 9-time All-Star, 5-time Silver Slugger, World Series champ. That kind of feels like a shoe-in. Like if you can make
500 homers.
just yeah. At some point, I think honestly, like yeah, does he have 500? Yeah, he does, and 1,600 RBIs.
509.
Yeah, so he's yeah. I definitely think
He's
Sheffield
got the
should be
counting
in.
stats. It's just he might have tested positive then,
Yeah,
because
he
those
feels
numbers usually lead to Hall of Fame votes.
right, but yeah, I don't really have much else to say about that.
Yeah, I don't want to give them too much time to talk about Hall of Fame voting. They don't deserve the satisfaction of that. But that's all we got for this impromptu episode. So we will have another Monday episode coming out like usual. We have to talk about the Simmons signing, a couple other little things that have happened. Hopefully, some other stuff happens. The shortstop market just got obliterated today. But we'll talk about the rest of it over the weekend. Episode will be out on Monday. So thank you guys for listening if you've listened this far. And we'll see you next Monday.
See you guys.